Imagine inheriting a massive, impregnable fortress. Your father spent his entire life building those walls, with blood, iron, and just brutal compromises.
Right, and everyone in the realm basically expects you to simply walk up the steps, take a seat on the throne, and rule from behind the safety of those parapets.
Exactly. You have the armies, the wealth, all the established alliances, but instead of taking the easy succession, you just, you drop the crown.
Wow.
Yeah, you open the heavy portcullis and you walk out into the freezing, untamed steppes completely alone. You just abandon everything that keeps you safe.
It's a wild premise.
It really is, and that is the exact, incredibly dangerous scenario teased for our protagonist, Xu Fengmian, in the promotional breakdown we are looking at today. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are unpacking a massive promotional release from the Source Top Drama World, detailing the highly anticipated arrival of Sword Snow Strides Season 2. And right out of the gate, this source material makes a very bold promise to you, the listener.
It really does.
It claims that this new season might completely change everything you thought you knew about the story.
And, a promotional text telling the audience to forget what they know is a very deliberate signal. They are tearing down the narrative architecture of the first installment.
Yeah, they're not holding back.
Not at all. We aren't just looking at the next chapter of a familiar Chinese historical fantasy. We are looking at a fundamental mechanical shift in how the story actually operates.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to dig into the specific clues hidden inside this announcement to figure out the machinery behind that shift.
Right. Like, why exactly is this season being hyped as this massive evolution?
Exactly. We're going to examine the character isolation, the extreme escalation of worldly stakes, and a highly specific casting strategy that acts as the glue holding this entire massive universe together.
It's a lot to cover.
It is. So the source immediately drops us into the core conflict for Xu Fengmian, stating, quote, "As the snowstorms of northern Liang return, Xu Fengmian ventures alone into the northern wild."
Alone. That's the key word there.
Yes, and it explicitly describes this area as an untamed land. And then it presents the ultimate thesis of the season. Will he repeat his father's fate or forge his own path to kingship?
What's fascinating here is the psychological necessity of the wilderness.
How do you mean?
Well, in the grand tradition of historical epics, you cannot sever a generational curse while sitting in the house your father built.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Right. The physical threat of the northern wilds, the snowstorms, the sheer hostility of an untamed landscape is merely a catalyst. The real danger is that internal psychological threat of inevitability.
Because his father's legacy is so heavy.
Exactly. The text implies that his father's path to power carried a heavy, dark fate. A path paved with ruthlessness.
It's the classic dilemma of the heir. If you stay in northern Liang, surrounded by your father's generals, your father's advisors, your father's laws, every decision you make is filtered through his legacy.
You just become an echo.
Right. So walking out into the blizzard alone is literally the only way to prove to yourself that the strength belongs to you, and not just the title you inherited. It completely strips away the entire supporting cast that bailed him out previously.
It creates a blank slate. Geographically, he is off the map of civilization.
Completely off the grid.
And psychologically, he is devoid of his safety nets. In the known world, you survive on established resources and reputation. But in an untamed land, survival is entirely meritocratic.
It's just you and the elements.
Exactly. So the question of whether he will forge his own path to kingship suggests that true kingship in this universe isn't just handed down via bloodline.
It has to be earned.
Right. It has to be manifested through personal suffering and revelation.
Yeah.
The real question is, can a ruler emerge from the wilderness with a philosophy of power that doesn't require the same brutal, soul-crushing compromises his predecessor made?
But, I would argue the isolation also serves a secondary, maybe a more cynical narrative purpose.
Oh.
Well, while the protagonist is out in the freezing steppes, having his profound philosophical awakening about what kind of king he wants to be, his absence creates a massive power vacuum back in the civilized world.
Ah, right.
You take the stabilizing force off the board, and the rest of the world inevitably shatters.
That's a great point. The internal isolation is directly mirroring an external explosion of conflict.
Yeah.
Xu Fengmian stepping away from the center of power acts as the trigger.
Yeah, and the source material doesn't just promise bigger battles, which let's be honest, is standard promotional vernacular for literally any sequel.
Yeah, everyone says bigger battles.
Right, but this drops a massive genre-altering escalation in the lore.
It really does.
The text says, divine soldiers descend upon the land, and extraordinary heroes emerge. The driving question of this entire spectacle becomes, who will rule the world?
That is a massive jump in stakes.
Huge. And I have to play devil's advocate here because this is where a lot of shows actually lose me.
Fair enough.
You build a deeply grounded first season based on gritty political intrigue, succession crises, and whispered conversations in dim throne rooms.
The human element.
Yes. And suddenly, we are talking about literal divine soldiers descending from the sky to fight for world domination. Doesn't drastically escalating the scale to involve the heavens risk entirely alienating the fan base that fell in love with the human-level politics?
It's a valid concern.
It just feels less like a natural evolution and more like, well, jumping the shark.
A lot of historical fantasies absolutely destroy their own internal logic when they attempt that leap. It's a massive risk.
Okay, so I'm not crazy for worrying about that.
No, not at all. But if we analyze the mechanics of epic storytelling, raising the stakes to a rule-the-world level and bringing in divine elements is often a structural requirement when dealing with a protagonist who is outgrowing their original limitations.
See, I push back on the idea that it's a requirement. If the political intrigue of Northern Liang was compelling enough to build a massive fan base, why can't the narrative just dive deeper into the complexities of human governance?
Like staying in the political sandbox.
Exactly. Why introduce gods into a story about men?
Because the concept of the divine in this specific genre is rarely about, literal monsters from the clouds. It is a manifestation of absolute, overwhelming power.
Okay, I see what you mean.
When the text mentions divine soldiers alongside the question of who will rule the world, it really touches upon the concept of the mandate of heaven.
Oh, wow.
The old order is so thoroughly broken that the foundational rules of reality are shifting. You cannot keep a character who is meant to redefine kingship playing in a regional political sandbox. He has mastered that level.
He needs a bigger test.
Right. The emergence of divine soldiers represents a paradigm shift that forces the protagonist to confront power on a philosophical, almost cosmic scale.
That actually brings up the second half of that quote from the source, which I think is really the saving grace of this whole escalation.
The heroes part.
Yeah. It says, extraordinary heroes emerge. Plural. Heroes.
The plurality is the most critical word in that entire sentence.
It tells us Xu Feng Nian is no longer the sole gravitational center of this universe.
Which is huge for fantasy.
Totally. In a standard fantasy setup, the hero levels up and the villain levels up to match him. It's just a binary conflict.
Very back and forth.
Right. But by emphasizing multiple extraordinary heroes emerging simultaneously alongside these divine soldiers, the source is promising a multifactional world.
The world isn't just getting bigger, it is getting significantly more crowded.
Which is so much more interesting.
Exactly. The power vacuum we discussed earlier isn't just drawing in mystical threats, it is elevating other human contenders who legitimately believe they are the protagonist of their own story.
Everyone thinks they're the hero.
Right. You have different perspectives, different moral codes, and different factions, all clashing for the ultimate prize.
So it's not just man versus God.
No, the scale expands to include the divine, yes. But the human politics actually become infinitely more complicated because there are suddenly multiple legitimate superpowered contenders vying for the throne.
That is a massive narrative gamble, though. I mean, you are essentially telling the audience that the survival skills Xu Feng Nian learned in the Northern Wilds are going to immediately be tested against foes who operate on an entirely different plane of existence.
It's a trial by fire.
Literally. But bringing divine soldiers onto a screen presents a massive practical problem for a television production.
The visual execution.
Yes. The moment you introduce heavy CGI elements and world-ending stakes, you risk the material feeling completely weightless.
Oh, absolutely.
It can very easily look like a video game cutscene if the human beings standing in front of the green screen don't sell the gravity of the situation.
You need an anchor. The more fantastical the external threat becomes, the more grounded and realistic the human reaction must be to maintain the suspension of disbelief.
Which brings us to the most illuminating part of this entire top drama world breakdown. The casting strategy.
This is where it gets really interesting.
It is. This is where the production team reveals how they plan to pull off this high wire act. They didn't just give us a vague promise of a bigger world, they handed us the specific resumes of the people hired to make us believe it.
It's a very deliberate flex.
As a seasoned C-drama viewer, looking at this cast list is like looking at a masterclass in demographic and tonal engineering.
Let's examine the alchemy of this ensemble, because it's brilliant.
You have the anchor for the masses right at the top, Lin Gangjin.
A certified, undeniable box office magnet.
Oh yeah. The text points out his 2009 debut in The Blue Cornflower, but anyone who follows the industry knows it was the 2011 phenomenon Scarlet Heart that cemented his status across Asia.
He was massive in that.
He has carried huge, financially successful projects like Young Detective. He brings that blockbuster, idol-level appeal that basically guarantees millions of viewers will tune in on day one.
You need that draw for a show this expensive.
Definitely. And alongside him, the source highlights Zhang Tianyang, who is a pure genre veteran. We are looking at a filmography that includes Swordsman, Perfect Couple, Princess Weiyang, and Bloody Romance.
An actor with Zhang Tianyang's specific pedigree is the connective tissue of a production like this.
The glue that holds the tropes together.
Exactly. Someone who has spent a decade in the trenches of period dramas understands the highly specific rhythm of the genre. They know how to handle the complex costuming, the wire work, and the distinct cadence of historical dialogue without it feeling performative.
It just feels natural to them.
Right, they ensure the baseline execution of the genre tropes is flawless.
But the secret weapon of this season, the mechanism that will actually ground the divine soldiers and the world-ending stakes, is the third tier of casting detailed in the source.
This is my favorite part.
Right, this is where we get away from the idol stars and dive into the academically trained, heavy-duty drama veterans.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of our previous debate, about the risk of escalating stakes.
The jumping the shark worry.
Yeah, that worry. This specific group of actors is the production's insurance policy against the show becoming a weightless cartoon.
The source goes out of its way to highlight Tian Shaoji. He is signed by Golong Alliance Investment, but the critical piece of data is his graduation from the prestigious Central Academy of Drama.
That is no small detail.
No, it's not. For anyone not deeply entrenched in the Chinese acting industry, the Central Academy of Drama isn't just a school. It is an institution that drills rigorous Stanislavski-level theatrical techniques into its students.
It's elite.
Highly elite. And the text specifically name-drops his work in the 2001 series, The Passion-Burning Years, and crucially, the 2003 masterpiece, Towards a Republic.
Highlighting Towards Republic is a massive flex by the promotional team.
It really is, isn't it?
Oh, completely. That series is widely considered one of the most dense, historically accurate, and politically heavy dramas ever produced in China.
It's basically required viewing for serious drama fans.
It deals with the brutal, real-world collapse of the Qing dynasty and the messy birth of a modern nation. So bringing a veteran of that specific environment into a fantasy setting fundamentally alters the DNA of the scene.
When you have an actor who spent years conveying the crushing geopolitical weight of real history, and you place him in a fictional throne room to discuss the threat of divine soldiers.
He doesn't treat it like a fantasy trope.
Exactly. He treats it like a legitimate, terrifying state emergency. He brings vocal projection, physical gravitas, and an innate understanding of high-level political terror.
It creates a fascinating juxtaposition on screen, honestly.
How so?
Well, idol acting often prioritizes aesthetic appeal, maintaining the visual beauty of the character even in moments of distress.
Looking good while crying.
Right. But theatrical, academic acting prioritizes the raw, often ugly reality of the emotion. And the source also points to Lu Tianzuo, another Central Academy of Drama graduate, noting his debut in the gritty military drama Soldier's Sortie.
Again, we are talking about a show rooted in sweat, dirt, and raw human endurance.
Exactly.
And the text rounds this out with Hao Changrong, a graduate of the Jiangsu Drama School, bringing yet another layer of formal classical rhythm to the production. You look at this combined roster and you realize the sheer genius of the strategy.
It's a perfectly balanced meal.
It is. You use the massive star power of Lin Gangjin to draw the audience into the chant. You use the genre expertise of Zhang Tianyang to keep the pacing of the fantasy elements moving smoothly. But you rely on the classical theatrical weight of actors like Tian Shaoji and Lu Tianzuo to sell the emotional devastation of the war.
It is an engineered bridge between spectacle and substance.
That's a great way to put it.
When the heavens open up and divine entities threaten to rewrite the map of the world, the audience will only feel the terror if the human beings on the ground react with authentic, gut-wrenching despair.
And that's what those actors bring.
Yes, the Central Academy of Drama veterans are there to provide that despair. They ensure that no matter how large the CGI budget gets, the political intrigue and the human cost remain razor sharp.
It completely validates the massive promise the promotional text made at the very beginning. When Top Drama World claims this season will completely change everything you thought you knew, they aren't just talking about plot twists.
No, they are talking about a total structural upgrade.
If you are studying how to build a massive, sprawling sequel in any medium, this promotional breakdown is basically a blueprint for success.
It really breaks down into 3 distinct, deliberate narrative layers.
Right. First, you strip the protagonist of his institutional power. You force Yufeng Nian out of the comfortable halls of Northern Liang and into the freezing isolation of the Northern Wilds.
He has to figure out what kind of man he actually is without his father's army backing him up.
Exactly. Second, you shatter the ceiling of the known world. You introduce divine soldiers and multiple extraordinary heroes to completely destabilize the political landscape.
Ensuring the hero isn't just fighting the same villains in a different location.
You got it. And third, you hire classically trained, heavyweight theatrical actors to serve as the emotional bedrock.
Guaranteeing that the audience actually feels the crushing weight of those escalated stakes.
It is a delicate balance.
It is. You lure the viewer in with the promise of unprecedented world-ending action, but you retain their investment through the complex, grounded human drama executed by a highly curated cast.
The fantasy provides the canvas, but the academically trained actors provide the texture.
It's brilliant. You get the epic scope of a myth, but the gritty, bureaucratic dread of a real-world war room.
But, tracing all of these threads back to the beginning of our discussion.
Back to the snowy steppes.
Yeah, back to the solitary figure of Yufeng Nian walking into the blizzard to escape the shadow of his father's legacy. This entire evolution of the show leaves us with a rather dark, lingering thought to chew on.
A philosophical paradox embedded right in the premise of the season.
Exactly. The source hinges everything on the question of whether he will forge his own path to kingship or repeat his father's fate. We've established that his father's era was defined by ruthlessness, and Yufeng Nian is seeking a new way forward. But let's look at the reality of the board he's playing on. The world is swarming with extraordinary heroes, divine soldiers are dropping from the sky, and multiple factions are waging a war to literally rule the world.
The environment he is trying to conquer has become exponentially more lethal than the one his father navigated.
Exactly. So, if Yufeng Nian actually wins, if he survives the Northern Wilds, outmaneuvers the extraordinary heroes, defeats the divine soldiers, and ultimately claims the power to rule the world.
Can he actually remain fundamentally different from his father?
Right. Doesn't the sheer horrific scale of a war for the world demand the exact same brutal compromises, the exact same paranoia, and the exact same sacrifices that built the fortress he walked away from in the first place?
It's a terrifying thought.
You can walk out into the cold alone to prove you are your own man, but if your ultimate goal is still to conquer an empire, you might inevitably have to become the monster you were trying to escape.
The throne itself might be the curse, regardless of who sits on it.
That is definitely something to mull over. Until next time, keep diving deep.